Hi and welcome to my video. I've already filmed a video today, so there's going to be two of me in the same outfit, but hey ho. Today I wanted to talk about Rainbow Milk by Paul Mendez. I read this month and I just loved it, so I just really wanted to do a review on it. It is a debut novel by Paul Mendez and it is so good. So good. I was so impressed. I can't believe this is a debut. It's well, good on him. Really well done. So this novel centres around the main protagonist, Jesse. But the first 50 pages are from the perspective of a man called Norman in the 1950s. And so Norman is from Jamaica. He comes to the UK through Windrush as a British citizen. I can't say any of those words. Windrush as a British citizen. And in those 50 pages, it sort of talks through his experience moving from his home to somewhere new, the discrimination he faces, the difficulty finding work despite being an intelligent and hardworking man, and with his wife, and he gets an illness which affects his eyesight. So it starts off with that, and then it skips to the early 2000s, like 2001, where we meet Jesse, and we're from Jesse's perspective, and I was really surprised by how much in those 50 pages, I really cared about Norman and really cared about his family and life. So when it made the jump, I was a bit like, ooh, am I going to care about Jesse? Because he just made me care about this dude. But actually, I really did. And the book centres around Jesse and follows him as he leaves his Jehovah's Witness life and moves to London from the Midlands, from Black Country in the Midlands. In the UK, if you know British geography, you know what I mean. And then moves to London, and he works as a sex worker. He's a male prostitute, and it's really well done. You follow Jesse as it sort of jumps forward and backwards in time. So if you don't sort of keep track of each sort of section's date, you might get a bit lost. But I did. I literally wrote. Let me find an example. For example, I wrote May 2002 and I wrote the next day. So I would write what the time jump was so that I could keep track of where it is. So if you don't do that, you're probably going to get lost because it does jump forwards and back even quite a lot, but by small amounts, so sometimes you might not know what's going on. But we go sort of back and forth through Jesse's life, learning about how he gets to where he is as a male prostitute and what his life was like as a Jehovah's Witness, because Jesse is gay, and as a Jehovah's Witness that is unacceptable, and he was like a very devout witness, and he has a really troubled family life, and he was raised by his mum and his adoptive father who's white, so his identity is a bit of a mess, and it's following him as he learns to who he is and to accept himself. It's kind of like a coming of age, even though Jesse is an adult. He's 18 or 19, I think, when he moves to London, and it's watching him grow and develop and form relationships and find love and all those things, but it's just done so well. There are some very graphic sex scenes in this, so if you're not into that, you might not want to read this, but it doesn't bother me at all. It was just, I keep saying it's just so well done, but I just cared so much about Jesse, like an unbelievable amount. The way that you just learn who he is, his trauma, reading it from a kind of psychological perspective as well, you can just see how all these different elements impact him, and how his relationship with men and his encounters with men as a sex worker, where they sort of come from and what he's looking for, and he just desperately wants to find a dad to love him because he has so much trauma and so much rejection in his life, and he doesn't know who his real dad is, and it's just absolutely heartbreaking and just so well done. I gave it 4 stars, and the reason why I gave it 4 stars and not 5, it was close to 5 but it just didn't cut it for me, is that there are a lot of there's 2 reasons. There are a lot of references to 90s and early 2000s R&B music, which is great. It's quite nice to have a flashback to Mary J. Blige and stuff, but it went into so much detail. Sometimes it kind of had the same issue that Ready Player One had for me, where it kind of breaks the immersion a little bit, because sometimes you're just like, come on, yeah, I get it, I know what you're trying to say, just move on, yeah, R&B, come on. But it was important for Jesse to talk about R&B because music has a huge, strong connection to his emotions and his memories. So like usually when a song we're talking about, there'd also be like a flashback to something from his childhood, or from where he grew up in the Midlands in the Black Country. It could be immersion breaking, and it could be a little bit annoying at times. And Paul Mendez also went into incessant detail about the workings as a waiter in a restaurant and like the inner workings of restaurants. And as someone who in the past has worked in restaurants before, it was like a horrible flashback. I didn't need that much detail. I didn't need 2 pages worth of detail. You know, we know what you mean. So that could be a bit irritating at times, but it didn't take away from how good this book was too much. Fortunately. Another reason as well is that I only gave it 4 stars, is that it jumped 14 years at one point. So sorry if you haven't read it, but it jumps towards the end, to the last 100 pages, so not much of the book, so only 100 pages at the end. It jumps 14 years and it carries on from there, and it kind of references back to things that have happened in that time, and I didn't like that so much because the rest of the book is slow and details of like small increments of time about Jesse's development, and we are so connected to Jesse and his development for it to skip 14 years to when he's in like his mid-30s, from being this like late teens, early 20s man-child to suddenly being like a man. It was a bit like jarring, and I felt sad that I didn't get more detail or see more of his development. I know the book couldn't be that long, and there was still like a lot of care and attention paid, but it felt like the last 100 pages were more rushed because trying to fill in all these gaps and give you details about what's happening for him now, whereas the rest of the book wasn't like that. So maybe a little bit more time and attention paid to the ending and to the last 14 years of his life might have benefited a bit more, even just like 100 more pages, which is like a tall order, I know, just to give us the same feeling that the rest of the book gave. So that's my criticism, but I just really, really enjoyed this book. Yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I picked it up from the shop because I saw the beautiful cover, but I'm just so glad I did. And one thing that I like is that the bits that are set in the West Country, or the bits that are spoken by Jamaican people, are written in like patois if you're Jamaican, and in Brummie if you're from the Midlands. So the Brummie accent is a very pronounced, for lack of a better word, accent in the UK. So and it's where I was born, but I grew up in the north, so I don't really remember it. But reading like the Brummie accent and trying to like hear it in your head was really quite funny and entertaining and really nice. If you're not familiar with the accent, reading this you might be like, what are they saying? If you just like YouTubed a Brummie accent, you'd get it and then you'd be fine. And the patois wasn't hard to understand reading it. It was fine. But I just like those touches. It really made the character seem real and legit. And yeah, it was just so good. And I just really I can't wait to see what else Paul Mendez writes. It's wonderful. Show a picture of him from the cover. Am I showing it? Yeah. Yeah, so he was born in Dudley in 1982. He began writing in 2002. So this is his first novel, and I think it's a lot of this novel draws on his experiences, which is lovely to see as well. And I just think, well done, Paul. You did so good. I really, really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, probably on one of my top list of books for 2020. But I hope that his next books he can tighten up maybe the bits that I found a little bit frustrating or not as immersive. So his next book can be 5 stars. That would be really exciting. But yeah, that's just a quick review of Rainbow Milk by Paul Mendez. I don't have much more to add really, other than you should read it. It covers topics of, race and sexuality and just identity, and and religion, obviously. Religion plays a huge part in it, and it doesn't like slight all Jehovah's Witnesses. If you are of a religious faith, which I'm not, but if you are, it's not going to be like, hopefully not offensive, but it has a very honest portrayal of how the rigidity and single-mindedness of religion can have such a negative impact on someone that doesn't fit in their norms, which Jesse doesn't. And I guess Paul doesn't. It's just like an interesting commentary on that, and to show how it affects a young mind and how it takes him a lot of work to come to terms with who he is and to find himself sort of outside his religion. I hope I've explained the book well enough, but it's a really interesting read, that's all I have to say about this book. I highly, highly recommend you read it. It's excellent. It needs way more hype around it, for sure, like 100% for sure. But thank you so much for watching. Happy reading, and I'll see you around.